Hey everyone, welcome to Roundball Stew. I am Matt Stroup. It is Friday, September 23rd, and today we're going to be continuing our division by division fantasy preview series with a look at the Southeast. We're going to talk Hawks, Hornets, Heat, and more as we attempt to answer some of the key fantasy questions from this division. To get this done, I'm joined by Raphielle Johnson and Steve Alexander. Guys, it's September 23rd, as I said. Season is less than 4 weeks away. It feels actually like this thing is going to happen here. There's like real things, basketball players. There's real basketball player news happening right now.
Yeah, it all got kicked off with Robert Williams, Time Lord, some breaking news, and then a bunch of other stuff followed. So we went from 0 to 60 in about 2 seconds.
Then Raph, we've already checked you can put Lonzo Ball knee surgery. You can cross it off your bingo card on your NBA injury bingo card, which is a real bummer. And actually, I think we'll talk about that coming up if we have time. But guys, the task at hand is to talk about the Southeast Division, as I said. And as a reminder, we covered the Atlantic and Central divisions the last 2 Fridays, so go back and check those out if you haven't listened already. But let's go to the Southeast. Let's start in Miami. And Raph, I'm going to throw this your way first. Looking at Miami's big three, if we can can we even call it a big three? That's a question to answer. Of Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Kyle Lowry. Does Kyle Lowry make it a big three? Is the first question. But everyone's shaking their head. Among those three, and this is a real question, who is your biggest priority at or around their expected ADP? Which guy would you most be looking to draft from that group at ADP?
Yeah, fantasy-wise, this is a big two. Kyle Lowry isn't going to be in the class of a Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo in that regard. So we'll get that out of the way first. For me, in terms of the ADP and prioritizing, it's Bam Adebayo. Just because if you miss on him on like the second or third round, I think the pickings are relatively slim in terms of other high-level big men in fantasy drafts, especially your more competitive leagues. Well, I think Jimmy Butler, for everything that he brings to the table, you don't get 3-point shooting, and I think you can get some solid wing production, if you pass on him at that point and look to get someone else and take Bam instead. So I think Bam, in terms of what he can do in the rebounding and scoring, field goal percentage, he can get you assists. He only took a slight hit there last season with the Kyle Lowry addition, but I'm not too worried about that. Bam would be my guy.
Yeah, this is going to be boring because my answer is exactly the same. Jimmy Butler's just turned 33 years old. Happy birthday, Jimmy.
Party pipe is back.
Jimmy just turned 33. Lowry's going to be 37 before the season is over. He turns 37 in March, which means he's 36 right now if you do the math.
Yeah.
That checks out.
I want nothing to do with Lowry. Jimmy Butler misses so many games, and he's getting old. I don't trust Jimmy Butler. Bam Adebayo is a top tier fantasy center. That's the guy that I want. I'm not messing with Butler or Lowry.
Interesting. So, yeah, with Butler, I want to go through each of these quickly, case by case. With Butler, when you look at his numbers last year, right around 21.5 points, 6 boards, 5.5 assists, 1.6 steals, as you mentioned, Ralph, just 0.5 threes. It's almost like he's a high floor fantasy guy, but you're also drafting the injury risk and the expected missed games. So to me, if you're going to draft a missed games guy, you want a high ceiling guy like Kevin Durant, who's just going to smash when he's out there. You don't want to draft like a safe fantasy player who misses a lot of games. So that to me is kind of the downside of Butler. With that said, I mean, he's a second round guy on a per game basis. So you're getting some nice value if you have him. It's just, you got to evaluate that. With Bam, my only question is another thing you brought up, Raph, the assists. He went from, I think, 5 per game to like 3.4 this past year. Do we think that's just kind of around where he's going to settle due to the addition of Lowry and Lowry still being there?
I think he's going to get that back up. I don't know if he's going to get all the way back up to 5, but like you mentioned with the injury concerns, and Steve mentioned the age of the other two. Another thing to consider is that Miami lost PJ Tucker and Markieff Morris. Now, Markieff didn't really do anything for them after the Jokic injury, caused injury, I should say. But they didn't really replace PJ Tucker. So maybe we see a little bit more of Bam at the 4 in some instances to get like maybe a Dwayne Dedmon or Omer get 7 on the court. Obviously, Caleb Martin, we can talk about him a little bit later. But I think Bam becomes an even more important player to the Heat just because you look at that front court rotation. How many guys are you really going to ride with, in terms of fantasy or actual basketball, to be honest with you, and feel comfortable about it?
So looking at Lowry, he was number 63 on a per game basis in 9 category leagues last year. Around 13.5 points, 4.5 boards, 7.5 dimes, 2.3 threes, 1.1 steals. He played 63 games, even though it felt like he missed more than that. Steve, I'm sensing already from both of you that there's almost zero Lowry-related enthusiasm in terms of fantasy in this room. But is there a point where he actually becomes a fantasy value in a draft?
I mean, if we get down to the end of the draft and you need a starting point guard, I mean, Lowry's the guy. But I mean, that backcourt is crowded too, because they got Lowry and Gabe Vincent, they got Victor Oladipo and Max Strus, they've still got Tyler Herro. Like, there's a lot of guys. Duncan Robinson's going to get some run. There's a lot of guys that are going to need to touch the ball back there. Now, one thing that I may be crazy here, but I kind of get this sense, I sort of have this feeling in my gut that Victor Oladipo is going to bounce back this year, make a comeback. And if he does do that and he can stay healthy, he could also eat into Jimmy's touches a little bit. I don't know why, but I'm kind of feeling like Victor Oladipo may become a thing again this year.
Well, I definitely want to get to that in a little bit more detail in a second. But Raph, I don't think, as Steve said, Lowry is going to make it all the way to the end of drafts. But I do think there's a chance he falls past that 65 range where he finished last year. So is there a point for you in drafts, Raph? You need a point guard. Lowry's falling. You might say to yourself, okay, he's turning 37, but this is still a productive player. Imagine where that mark is for you in drafts. Do you have a ballpark number?
I would say like 85. That would be my feeling. Like you get to like pick 85, anywhere from 85 to 100. I think there would be good value to be had there. Because with him, you're just hoping that he gets 60 games. Like I don't even think 65 is a threshold that you're holding him to, but you get him to 60 games and what he can give you in terms of assists and steals. I think you'd be pretty happy with that.
Yes, I'm just looking at a slow mock draft that I'm doing right now with a bunch of industry guys. And Kyle Lowry went with the 7th pick of the 9th round. 7th. It's a 12-round draft, 12 teams,
so that
12
was
rounds.
103?
Yeah,
wait,
a little over 100.
And, he went right around the time of Chris Duarte, Mitchell Robinson, Gordon Hayward, Anthony Simons, Malcolm Brogdon, Kongwu, RJ Barrett. Like, he's going to be there. He's going to be one of the last point guards taken.
Man,
I think Lonzo Ball and DeAnthony Melton are also going to be there. I love Melton. I think Melton's a sleeper pick this year. But, I mean, Lowry's going to be there in the 8th or 9th round of your draft. So if you find yourself needing a point guard late, I mean, you could do worse.
I've thought each of like the last 4 or 5 years was like the last year I'll ever draft Lowry, but it keeps happening again. I feel like we're headed that way. If he's going to be there in the 100 range of some of my drafts, then I will absolutely take him there. I think
37 in March, Matt.
Well, you don't want to take a bunch of 37-year-old guys on your roster, but if you have one, that's fine.
Okay,
that's fine. All right. So Steve, you brought up Oladipo. So let's get into that, because my other question about Miami is there anyone we really care about in fantasy beyond Jimmy, Bam Adebayo, and Kyle Lowry? And I think Oladipo is the guy I naturally thought of. But I want to kind of explore this one a little bit, because I feel like we had the impression that he was really good in the playoffs, and he certainly had his moments. But when you look at the full picture, in 15 games, he was at 10.6 points, 3.4 boards, 2.1 dimes, 1.3 steals, 1.1 threes, 37% from the floor, Steve. So it sounds like you're expecting better than that. Just tell us a little bit more about what you're thinking, then I want to hear from Raph too on this one.
Well, I just feel like he's been injured for 3 years, and he's got a chip on his shoulder. I don't think he's happy with how things have gone. I think he's starting to finally feel better for the first time in a long time. I think we forget how good he was when he came into the league with Orlando. And I mean, he was just a really good player, a lot of categories in fantasy. And I think for the Heat to really do it this year, they're going to need someone other than those three guys we talked about to step up. And I think Victor Oladipo is in a good spot to do that. And it just seems like you're not going to have to spend a top pick on him. He's going to be available in the middle, maybe later middle parts of your draft. And everybody's sort of written him off and forgotten about him. And, you know, if he starts shooting guard and stays healthy, he's going to have a good year.
I think with Oladipo, I'm rooting for him to be the sixth man as opposed to starting. Just because I think when you have Butler and Adebayo and Lowry on the court, that could limit Oladipo's usage in terms of having the ball in his hands to make plays and create, as opposed to simply just finishing plays like we see them use Max Strus a lot. So I think Oladipo, of the options that we've discussed on the wings, he probably has the highest upside in terms of both ends of the floor, just because of what we've seen from him when he's been healthy in the past. And he's a plus defender, and he can score from just about anywhere on the court. So I think the ceiling is what you like there. But the injury concerns would represent the floor for me. So I think he'd probably be the most intriguing. And I think Caleb Martin deserves a mention as well. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, they really didn't do too much to address the PJ Tucker departure. So Martin, I've heard discussions about him being used at the foursome in smaller lineups. He's someone I think is going to play a bit more. I don't know if he's a guy that you're going to necessarily target on the back end of drafts, but you're running low on the clock late final round. They can do a lot worse than grabbing Caleb Martin.
All right, that's a good name to file away. Let's move now to Atlanta. And actually, I mentioned earlier that we have actual NBA news circulating across the Roto World Player News page. We do have some Hawks updates from Friday that we're going to get to in a minute. But I want to start with what I see as kind of the big fantasy question around this team, and that is how, if at all, should we be adjusting Trae Young and Dejounte Murray in our rankings now that they're sharing the same backcourt? And Raph, I know you and I have talked about this a time or two this offseason after the trade. I think there are some concerns. I'm feeling that we should move both guys down a bit. Is it possible, though, that some managers are overreacting to the kind of, in theory, negative fantasy impact, and it may not be as big as we think? I mean, is there a chance that these guys are not going to move down that much and we shouldn't adjust them that much?
Yeah, I think the question is how much is overreacting? Like, how far are these guys dropping? Like, if you're talking about 2 or 3 rounds, that would be a massive overreaction. But, you know, if you let them go, you get them like 1 round later than expected, that's okay. But the more that I think about it, I think they're going to be fine. Like, whatever Murray loses offensively, he's capable of making up defensively. You know, he's got a good build and he can jump passing lanes and the likes. I think with Trae, in terms of 9-cat, the one concern would be turnovers, but maybe being out there with another playmaker helps him keep that under control, so to speak. So, yeah, now that I think about it, after we had a summer to kind of digest this and think things through, I think they'll both be fine.
Yeah, I'm still excited about both of them. In that draft I was talking about that is going on as we speak, Trae went 12th. He was the last pick of round 1. Last year, I think he was going, like 10th, 9th? So
yeah, right in that range.
Fell a little bit, but that's also because Ryan Canals has hyped Tyrese Halliburton so hard. He's going like top 6 now, and that's bumped everybody else at the end down a little bit. But Trae went 12th, and then Murray was the 3rd pick of round 2.
Okay.
Oh, no, so that's incorrect. He was the 10th pick of round 2. So he went towards the end of
10th rounder.
Towards the end of round 2, right before I took Ja Morant.
Round 2. Got it.
So I mean, Trae's going to go at the end of round 1 or the beginning of round 2, and I think DeJounte won't be on the board by round 3 in any draft. I, for one, as a Hawks fan, am excited to see these two guys out there together. I think DeJounte can play shooting guard. I think Trae can play shooting guard. I think they're having 2 ball handlers out there. As we saw in the playoffs, you know, when teams focus all their defensive energy on Trae, there's nobody else to come get the ball and handle it. And that's why they got Dejounte Murray. They also did not get Dejounte Murray to not have him be a major factor. 13 triple-doubles last year for Dejounte. He's not going to have 13 triple-doubles with this team, but he'll flirt with them, all the time. So I'm still pretty much all in on both guys.
I did a little quick digging into teammates who have finished in the top 15 in fantasy of 9-category leagues in recent years. This past year, we had Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving on a per-game basis, of course. We also had James Harden and Joel Embiid in the top 15. The prior year, Harden, Durant, and Kyrie were all top 8. The year before that, Anthony Davis was second. LeBron was 16th, so you almost had it there. You also had Damian Lillard and Hassan Whiteside in the top 10. I mean, the point is, it's very feasible for two teammates to be in or around the top 15 in fantasy. Doesn't mean it will happen with these two, but I don't think we should be thinking about it as impossible for two guys who have kind of been in that area already. Steve?
And as we're about to talk about, the Hawks don't exactly have a big three. So, right. I mean, DeJounte and Trae, one of those guys is going to have the ball in their hands all the time. So,
right.
Yeah, if there was a third guy, like if they had a Kevin Durant or a Jimmy Butler or, some other guy that was going to have the ball a lot, I'd be more concerned about it. But I mean, these are the two stars of this team. So they're going to have the ball.
I mean, what did DeJounte average last year? 21, 8, and 9 with 2 steals or something like that. I mean, even if we take a little hit off those numbers, I mean, if he's at like 18, 8, and 7 with 2 steals, I mean, that's still a tremendously valuable fantasy guy. That's a guy we're going to love having on our rosters. So I do think it's possible we can overreact. And Steve, you mentioned this team doesn't really have a big three, so we're going to go there next. Raph, who is the Hawk? Is there a Hawk you're excited to target in drafts after Trae or DeJounte? Again, taking likely ADP into mind. I have a name, but I want to hear if either or both of you guys have a name.
Well, I had a name as well, but now that he's not going to be healthy for the start of training camp.
Okay.
I don't know. That would be Bogdan Bogdanovic. He's still dealing with some knee issues. He wouldn't be the third Hawk off the board in drafts. I think John Collins would be that guy. Yeah. And then maybe you start talking about the centers, be it Clint Capella, Onyeka Okongwu. I've seen Okongwu go pretty high in some of the mocks that I've been in, like 7th, 8th round. That's a bit too much for me, but Bogdanovic is a guy that I like just because you got the Kevin Huerter trade. They got back Justin Holiday and Mo Harkless. Neither is like an elite offensive player. And you have DeAndre Hunter. We've seen flashes, but he can't stay healthy. Interesting to say that when you have Bogdanovic, who can't stay healthy himself. But I think as like the anchor of the second unit, Bogdanovic would be capable of giving you good fantasy value, but I don't think you can do that right now.
Yeah, Matt, you used the word excited. Who am I excited about drafting outside of DeJounte and Trae? It's really no one. Who I would take if the need arose and he was there at the right time is John Collins, because it wasn't that long ago there were certain people in this room drafting John Collins in like the 1st or 2nd round, and along with every other fantasy manager out there. But no, we were giving some of us were giving John Collins 1st round hype not that long ago, and he has not lived up to that, but he's also not been terrible. His finger injury last year was a problem. His finger, I guess, still looks about as badly mangled as it did last year, but he's playing through it, and it's not bothering him. Collins went in round 5 in that draft, 9th pick of round 5. He went right in between CJ McCollum and Devin Vassell. And, at that point of the draft, if I need a big man and Collins is sitting there, I'm okay with taking John Collins in round 5 or 6. You just don't want to reach for him into round 3 or 4.
I mean, weirdly, by the way, happy birthday, John Collins, turns 25 today. Weirdly, in this party pipe is back out. In this offense, what it's become, he's kind of serviceable for a super exciting guy in real life, a highlight reel dunker. He's just become kind of a serviceable fantasy player. He's not the 20 and 10 guy he used to be. He's not going to be that guy most likely, but he's fine around the 5th round, like you said. And as for Go ahead, Steve. I got another thought, but go ahead.
Well, back to John Collins. I mean, we just got done saying that the Hawks need a third guy to step up. They need if they're going to have a big three, they need a third guy to step up. Now, if they had Dejounte Murray and Trae Young, as we know them right now, with John Collins 2 years ago, we would have said, "Oh, John, that's going to be the big three. Collins is going to go off." I'm not convinced we've seen Collins reach his ceiling yet. Hopefully, he spent this summer talking to people and getting hyped up, and the Hawks organization has to be telling him, man, we need you to ball out. Like, you need to come out and get 18 and 10 every night. I don't know if he's capable of doing it, but he's at least got a chance to. So,
and speaking of that finger, so this is via Brad Rowland on Twitter, and this is up on the Roto-World Player News page. Hawks GM Landry Fields said that Collins' finger, which I don't know if you guys saw the pictures last year, but it was extremely enlarged. I think his right ring finger, if I remember correctly. Anyways, right ring finger. Landry Fields said it looks, quote, crazy, but it's functional. And by the way, as a guy who recently broke a finger, I was at a hand doctor recently, and we started talking about athlete injuries. It just kind of came up, and I was like, hey, did you see John Collins' finger? It was like super enlarged from like repeat injuries and all that. And he was like, oh yeah, it's going to stay that way forever. It's always going to look like that. And I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, there's a chance that affects his outside shooting. His outside shooting was a little hit or miss playing through that finger, but hopefully not. I don't know. Anyways, I think I don't have sky high fantasy expectations for Collins, but that's just where I've landed.
I'd also like to be excited about Okongwu, but there's a player news blurb on Roto World page that Capella is still the starter.
Yeah,
they're going to split minutes. You know
what this reminds me of? That situation, the Capella Okongwu situation. Steve, I know you play fantasy football. Raph, I don't know if you do, but the Patriots backfield with Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. It's like everyone's drafting Ramondre Stevenson all summer because he's like, the exciting up and coming guy. That's the guy you want to get all the touches. We want to see that happen. That's Okongwu, but Capella's when Capella's healthy, Capella is the guy. I think if you're taking Okongwu in the 7th or 8th round, you're going to be disappointed, I would imagine. And I love Okongwu as a player, but I just can't see it. I mean, I don't see him becoming the winner in a platoon or anything like that as long as Capella's healthy. I just can't see it. I think they like him, but I think he's a 20-minute per game guy when Capella's healthy. And the guy I want to draft is Capella because he was a letdown this past year at 65th overall, but we have to remember the 3 years prior, he was a top 25 guy in 9-category leagues, 3 years running. This time last year, he was coming off a PRP injection in his Achilles. He was limited. He started slow as a result of it. I don't know if he was ever right. So I'm keeping an eye on him. If he's a full go in training camp, I think he could be a major fantasy bargain, Raph.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I was able to get Capella after someone else took Okongwu in one of my mocks. And I pretty much said to myself, yeah, I'm going to finish ahead of that guy if we play this thing out, but
right.
Because like you said, unless Capella isn't healthy, I don't think there's any way that he doesn't start just because of the size factor he brings to the table. The pick and roll game where you have Trae Young and Dejounte Murray out there, I think he's going to be a more valuable asset to the Hawks than Okongwu would. Now, Okongwu can give him good value off the bench, but I think with that lineup, Capella's the better fit.
And Matt, going back to your football reference, it also reminds me a little bit of Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers for the Chargers because everybody's drafting Cam Akers. And what's that?
The Rams.
Oh, Rams, sorry.
Wrong.
One of those California teams. But everybody's drafting Akers, and then Darrell Henderson came out and got all the carries the first couple weeks. So it's the same thing with Capella and Okongwu. Capella, by the way, in that draft went in the 7th round, 8th pick, 7th round, and then Okongwu went with the 10th pick in the 9th round, which might be a little early.
Capella, that is a potential major bargain. Bargain. I feel like Capella was undervalued in fantasy drafts all those years he was finishing top 25, but it feels like it's going to another level early returns this year. And by the way, he's 20 years old. It's not like he's ancient, and he's the third highest paid player on the team this year for what that's worth. All right, moving to Charlotte, because we could talk about the Hawks all day, but we can't do that. LaMelo Ball was 21st in 9 category leagues this past season, finished around 20 points, just short of 7 rebounds, 7.5 assists, 1.6 steals, 2.9 threes. Tremendously fun guy to have on fantasy rosters. Steve, will your guy LaMelo live up to first-round fantasy billing this year? Is he going to be worth what we think requires a first-round fantasy pick to get him?
Yeah, Jonas took him with the 10th pick in the first round of that draft.
Yeah.
I took him with the 4th overall pick in a dynasty draft, which I was kind of excited about. I didn't get Luka, but I got LaMelo. Dude, LaMelo, as long as he can stay healthy, man, the sky's the limit with this kid. He's still improving. He's still getting better. There is no ceiling, and he's so fun to watch play. So he's perfect. I mean, I love drafting LaMelo on my teams.
Yeah, I think he's for sure a first rounder. He's going to live up to it. You do have the questions about the coaching change, Steve Clifford being back. But I think there will be a better connection between he and LaMelo than there was at times between LaMelo and James Borrego. Like, remember some instances where LaMelo was benched for mistakes on the court. I don't think we're going to have as many of those situations, if any. He's going into year 3, so he's got 2 years of experience under his belt, and I think it's clearly his team. So they're just going to let him kind of run, and they're going to play in whatever image LaMelo Ball kind of paints, so to speak. So I think he's going to be a first-round value guy either way, regardless.
It's a blank canvas. And by the way, from year 1 to year 2, he improved in points, rebounds, assists, 3-point percentage, 3-point volume. I mean, you just love to see that. And he turned 21 about a month ago. So, man, yeah, I kind of came into this wanting to be fully convinced that he's fully worth a first-round pick, and there's no doubt, and I'm kind of there now. So I think we can quickly move on from that one. Terry Rozier, who's who I want to talk about next. He's been a top 40 fantasy guy each of the last 2 seasons. Another guy who, for whatever reason, seems to be annually undervalued in fantasy drafts, coming off a year where he averaged around 19 points, 4.3 boards, 4.5 dimes, 1.3 steals, 3.03 pointers, top 30 this past season, a guard who basically never turns it over. So, really boosts him in 9 category leagues. Are we trending toward a world where Rozier is going to be a bargain in fantasy drafts again, or are we going to see his ADP finally start to catch up to his actual value?
I think it depends. Like, in your more experienced drafts, I think his value is going to catch up. The ADP is going to catch up to the value, so to speak. But your more casual leagues, I think people are still going to kind of be in the business of ignoring Rozier until about the 4th or 5th round. And
right.
You look at that roster. Like, who else are you going to turn to after LaMelo? Like, I think if Terry Rozier is on the board after the 3rd round, you need to change that in your league immediately, because that's going to be really good value to get for him.
As Lee Corso might say, not so fast, Raph. Terry Rozier went 5th round, 4th pick in that expert draft I'm in right now.
54, 64?
5th
no,
round,
52. I can count. 52.
I cannot. I can never figure out what that adds up to. But yeah, I mean, he was sitting out there in the 5th round, and this is a league full of people who know what they're doing. And I think, and maybe some of that is those of us who've been around. We've been around long enough that we remember when Rozier's field goal percentage was really scary, and he wasn't that great of a fantasy player. I think the last 2 years, I still am not 100% sold that that's real, even though I probably should be. So I'm probably not messing with Rozier until round 5.
I'm all in. I'm with you, Raph.
Yeah.
Especially,
it's like, what happened those last 2 years, though? He's playing next to LaMelo.
Yeah,
that's
like you said, the roster, the usage. There's only more usage coming his way this year. So what he just did, 19, 4.5, That scoring should go up. I think low 20s is well within reach for him, and I'm a believer in the percentage. I've seen enough the last 2 years. The percentage has been good enough to not hurt your team in terms of shooting. I love this guy. The only reason I wouldn't take him in the fourth round is if I somehow was guard heavy and really needed, blocked shots or something at that point. But he'll be one of my top targets, no doubt.
I think Roth's point about Steve Clifford being the coach is also important, though, because he's going to be a lot. I think he's going to run a different style than Borrego did, and we don't really know how that's going to pan out exactly. Plus, the Charlottes have a little bit different look this year. We may see PJ Washington starting at power forward. Who knows what's going to happen there? But there's a lot of questions to be answered. But the one thing for certain in my mind is I don't care who's coaching. I don't care what they're running. LaMelo is going to be good to go. I'm just not as confident in Terry Rozier year in and year out.
I cannot wait to get that. Maybe it's a Terry Rozier jersey coming my way, Steve. I'll have to think on that a little more. Quickly before we move on from Charlotte, anyone else on this roster you're excited about, Steve? Excited, a relative term on this episode. Intrigued by? How about we say that?
Well, I'm not messing with Gordon Hayward. Kelly Oubre, I'm fine with taking him late. He does a little bit of everything, and little being the key word there. I kind of like Jalen McDaniels as a super sleeper on that team. Kind of like Mark Williams, the center, as a super sleeper, but he's so young and raw that I don't know that he can make a huge impact this year. But he's a guy I want to keep an eye on. I don't have a problem with drafting PJ Washington, who's going to be available, late in drafts, round 10, 11, 12, something like that, probably. Just because I think he's going to have a chance to touch the ball a lot and have a big role.
Yeah, Raph, where are you on those guys?
I would say PJ Washington. According to Cleaning the Glass, his minutes at the center position have increased each of the last 3 seasons. I think he was at 54% at the center position last year, and they really haven't done anything to improve the rotation there. I know they drafted Mark Williams, but how much is Steve Clifford going to be willing to trust him from the start? You have Mason Plumlee, who I think is kind of a safe choice in terms of starting center, but you're not really expecting him to set the world on fire. Beyond that, you've got Nick Richards and Kai Jones. I mean, good for them to getting an NBA paycheck, but fantasy-wise, they doesn't do it for me. So I think PJ Washington, whether it's at the 4 or the 5, we didn't mention the Miles Bridges situation, but who knows if he's going to be playing basketball in Charlotte or anywhere next season. So I think that's all the more reason to kind of, if you're going to use a late round pick on anyone, it'll probably be PJ Washington.
And PJ went in round 8 in that draft I've spoken of.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I mean, the guy is just a sneaky good fantasy player. For his career, 3 seasons, he's sitting at 12 rounding, 12 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, 0.9 steals, 1.0 blocks, 1.6 threes. Basically a steal and a block and a 3-pointer and a half for his career, and he's basically done that every year. So that alone makes him worth drafting.
And he should have a bigger role.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have 2 more teams left to hit. First, we're going to take a quick break. Just a reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. The contests are free and easy to play, and you have a shot to win thousands this weekend by predicting what will happen in college football, Major League Baseball, and the NASCAR circuit, and in Premier League. There's also $100,000 up for grabs by guessing the outcome between the 49ers and Broncos in our Sunday Night 7 contest. Next up, it is the Washington Wizards. We're going to start at the top with the biggest name on this roster, Bradley Beal, coming off a lost season. I don't think it's a stretch to say, where he only played 40 games and was a 7th-round player on a per-game basis when he was healthy. Raph, I believe we've talked about this one as well, but it's been a minute. Are you confident 29-year-old Bradley Beal bounces back and gets back to providing us some early-round magic?
Well, if you recall, I was driving the Bradley Beal top 5 bandwagon ahead of last season.
Yeah.
He got off to a brutally slow start and then went down with that season-ending injury. So
yeah,
I think he'll bounce back, but bouncing back would be like 3rd-round value for me. I can't really commit to him any higher than that. So I think 3rd round is where I would take him. He may be off the board in a lot of leagues before that, but I wouldn't lose too much sleep if I didn't get him.
So you're prepared to miss him if that's what it takes. You'd prioritize, I don't know, a Dejounte Murray over Bradley Beal in the second round. Is that fair to say?
That is definitely fair to say.
Sir Steve, where are you on this Bradley Beal thing?
I'm out of the Bradley Beal sweepstakes.
Okay.
He will not be on any of my teams. I don't trust his legs, or his leg, I should say. The numbers you rattled off from last year, even when he was playing, it wasn't great. In fact, he did so much damage to fantasy managers last year that in this expert draft that I keep talking about, he was the 9th pick of round 4.
Wow. I can tell you what that is. That's 45th.
Round 4. So, yeah, I mean, and to me, if you can get Brad Beal in round 4, even though I just said I wasn't going to do it, I mean, I think you probably should, because he's got third round upside. He's got second round potential, if he's fully healthy and highly motivated. So I think if you can get Beal in round 3 or 4, you're doing okay. I'm just like Ralph said, if I don't get him, I'm not really going to be sad about it.
I'm nervous, but I'm going to have a hard time passing on him if he's there in the third round, I think. Just given the potential ceiling. All right, looking at the rest of this roster, Steve, this one's coming your way as well, and then Raph, we'll hear from you right after. Who would you most want in fantasy among Barton, Kuzma, Kristaps Porzingis at ADP, the other, secondary options on the Wizards? Who has your attention the most from that group? Anyone?
Will Barton, coming off injury fest, sounds like he might start at small forward for them. Kyle Kuzma had a really exciting first half last year, I thought, kind of surprising and fun. Porzingis, always hurt. I really don't want any of these guys, but I guess if I was going to get one late, I might just take a late flyer on Will Barton. I've put enough hope and effort into Kristaps Porzingis over the years that I just can't do it anymore. I just can't. I'm done. But this will be the year he plays 75 games and goes nuts.
So Barton, by the way, actually played 71 this past year after a few injury-plagued seasons.
Oh, okay.
Raph, no, it's okay. He did have an injury fest in recent years before that. Who is it for you, Raph?
I think Porzingis has the highest ceiling, but we talk so much about the 65 game threshold. He's played 55 or more just once since his second NBA season, and that was the year he played 57 games. So I think I've seen him go off the board right around like the 50th pick in the mocks that I've done. If you go there, I guess you can justify it, but it's like you're banking on this guy playing 55 games. And I don't know if that's enough if you're going to take someone like that 4th, 5th round area. So I think Barton as a late round pick is intriguing just because of what he can potentially bring, as a shooter, as a slasher, and maybe some steals as well. Kuzma really concerns me with this rotation getting kind of bulked up, so to speak, because we saw him, the Lakers kind of get lost in the shuffle. He did most of his damage last season when they were down multiple players due to injury.
Right.
So I don't think I would bother with him at all. But I think Barton, if he's not scoring like 20 points per game, which he isn't a 20-point per game scorer, I think he has a better chance of giving you some production in other areas than Kuzma does.
So Kuzma, of all the guys we've talked about, sorry, Steve, sounds like the be careful about drafting last year's numbers when it comes to Kyle Kuzma. 17 points, 8.5 boards, 3.5 dimes, almost a block per game, 2 threes. I mean, he was a real fantasy bargain in drafts and really came through. But last year, a different story, we think, than it's going to be this year in Washington. Go ahead, Steve.
And is Monty Morris the starting point guard for this team? And if so, I mean, I don't know, man. I think he's an interesting last round pick if you need a point guard badly, but I don't know. We'll have to see what training camp looks like for the Wizards.
What was that, Raph?
Yeah, we weren't given his name as an option, so I left Morris out there. But yeah, I think Morris is a pretty safe fantasy pick.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, DeLon Wright, who they also added, is not really a point guard. Let's be honest. Good basketball player, not really a point guard. So that plays in Monte Morris's favor as kind of the top. Dude, it's not quite as crowded there at point guard at all anymore, right? I haven't double checked the depth chart in a minute.
Neto's gone. Smith obviously was included in that trade with Denver, so he's gone as well.
It's Monty Morris. That's it.
Yeah, it's either Morris, and they can play Beal on the ball sometimes too, but he's not really a point guard. He's a scoring guard. So,
yeah. And I mean, it's not like Monte Morris is a guy who's shown us a sky-high fantasy upside, but we could see a little bit more ceiling than what we saw in Denver, potentially, given a better role.
Last thing, Porzingis went with the first pick of round 4 in that draft.
Okay.
That seems a little early to me.
37.
I mean, look, if you believe that he's going to play 65 games, then he should be a third-round fantasy pick because he was a top 20 fantasy guy when he was on the floor. He missed 31 games, I believe. Was it? He played 51 games, right? Does anyone have it pulled up? I'm pretty sure it's 51.
Yeah, he played 51 last season. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, look, he was like a 20-8 guy with 1.5 threes and 1.6 blocks. Tremendously valuable still, even after all the injuries. It's just, I don't know. At 4th, 5th round, we can still get upside and some durability there.
Raph, read off his games played for the last 5 years.
Okay, so
51.
Rookie season 72, second season 66, third season was 48, and he missed 2018-19 with the ACL. 2019-20, 57, then 43, and then 51 this past season.
All right, it's been basically a downward path there.
I'm gonna have to no go.
I don't know. I think that's like the panic pick that happens right when you're, oh no, my Q just got decimated last second. There's Porzingis. Maybe I should just take him, and then you stare at your roster the next day trying to convince yourself that it was a good idea. I hope that doesn't happen to me. But
if
it will be fun when he's out there.
If you're going to draft an entire team of risk-reward guys, Porzingis might be a good one to, you go KD, and then, I don't know who you're taking in round 2, but Jimmy Butler, Porzingis, those guys, you could do an all risk-reward team. That would be a fun way to do a draft.
That actually would be. I'd like to see you do that, Steve. I don't have the nerves for it.
We'll do it when we do a 2-man draft.
Okay. Perfect. Last team we're going to hit in this division, because it is the last team in this division, is the Orlando Magic. And I want to start with the area of this roster I can't help but zero in on when I look at it. When I look at the depth chart, it's the front court. Steve, first your thoughts, then coming your way, Raph. How do we think this shakes out between Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr., Mo Bamba, this guy named Jonathan Isaac, who used to be a wildly intriguing fantasy guy, etc. I haven't even mentioned Chuma Okeke. Is there, to me, I want to believe that we only have to worry about Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr., Mo Bamba maybe in a deeper league. We'll believe Jonathan Isaac when we see it. But is that a realistic way to think of it? And Raph is gone.
He'll be back. He's probably yelling at his lawn guys. Yeah, I tell you, I feel like a lot of people are high on Mo Bamba. Like, I didn't have him ranked in my top 200, and guys are like, "Hey, you forgot Mo Bamba." I'm like, "No, I did it on purpose." I didn't forget him, but with Wendell Carter Jr. there, like you mentioned, Paolo is there now. Okeke, I don't know. Mo Bamba is going to have 6 incredible games this season where there's 4 blocks and 5 threes and 20 points and 12 boards. You're going to be like, oh man, I missed out on Mo Bamba, but there's going to be a lot of games where there's nothing close to that. So I'm just I'm not on the Mo Bamba bandwagon. Matt, I've posted or retweeted a 5-second video of John Isaac going off in a gym against some kids. And, that's enough to convince me that he's good to go for the entire season. No, I'm just kidding. I still don't know what John Isaac is going to do, but man, I know he's sitting there in the 9th round of drafts, and we talk about a risk reward guy. He's another one. But with Paolo Banchero there, even if Isaac comes back and plays well, he doesn't have a clear path to huge minutes.
Yeah. Outside of Banchero and Carter Jr., I really don't feel good about this rotation at all, just because there's so many rolls of the dice. Like Bamba, you can potentially get like top 50, top 60 value from him, but how much is he going to play? And, not just the injuries, but also the minutes, like the available minutes there. Okiki's a non-starter for me. I wouldn't even touch him in like the final round of a draft. I don't really think there's going to be enough there. Isaac's a wild card. He hasn't played competitive basketball against NBA competition since July 2020 in the bubble when he suffered the ACL tear. And overall, like this, I don't know what happens in their like medical department down there, but there seem to be a lot of injuries. So like this is the complete opposite of what we saw, say, like the Phoenix Suns when like Steve Nash was in his heyday. It's like guys go there and kind of get rejuvenated. I don't know what's going on down there, but it's like guys just get hurt, and then we don't see them for like 9 to 12 months.
Or 3 years.
Get hurt again. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think Banchero is the guy that you draft just because of his overall skill set and what it can do for an offense that was absolutely terrible last season. And Carter Jr. is relatively safe, but beyond that, I let those guys be someone else's problem.
That makes sense. I think Mo Bamba has a case for net solid value, almost like better roto value than head to head, because I think he is going to be such a roller coaster, like Steve said. I do think even in limited time he can do some damage though. So in a deeper league, I think he might be on my radar just as an easy source of blocks. But the other guy I really want to focus on is Franz Wagner, who was basically a top 100 guy as a rookie in 9 category leagues. He played 79 games, but when you look at the stat line, Raph, it was more serviceable than anything else. I mean, we're around 15 points, 4.5 boards, 3 assists, a steal, 0.4 blocks, 1.2 threes. Yes, good percentages and low turnovers. But I mean, that's more of a stat line that wouldn't hurt you, but also just doesn't jump out at you. Do you think Wagner has a case for more ceiling this year? And will he be a priority for you in drafts?
I think he will be. Like the early ADP I've seen of him, 97, which I think is way too low.
Wow.
Yeah, that's way too low for him. Yes. He played extremely well for Germany at Eurobasket and won a bronze medal. I think in the past I've compared him to a guy like a Mikal Bridges, where his value to a team, like he may not go as high as he should just because you get good, consistent value. You don't really get any numbers that truly jump off the page. So I think for me, like if I can get him in like the 6th or even 7th round, I think I would be pretty pleased with that. Even with the logjam in Orlando, I'm really high on this guy. And with the loss of Gary Harris for the time being, that team's going to need shooting. Like they ranked 11th in 3-point attempts per game last season, but 28th in percentage. So they had a lot of guys taking shots they had no business taking because they couldn't shoot very well. But he was a guy who was a decent 3-point shooter. I think he's only going to get better in time. So I'm really excited about Franz in Orlando.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jonas ended up with both Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero in that draft. He got Franz in round 6 with pick 3. He got Banchero in round 7 with pick 10. So I think Jonas is really high on Franz Wagner, much higher on him than I am. I'm not going to lie. I kind of slept on Franz last year. I'm probably sleeping on Franz this year. There's just other guys, I have a long list of my guys. And if you're not on that list, you're not on my team. And Franz is not on that list.
Lord, if you're 97th at ADP, man.
Yeah, that's a joke.
This is a guy who I think could easily, vault into the top 75 without too much effort. Again, I don't know that he's going to have just an incredible, like mind-blowing stat line or anything, but if the floor is what we saw last year of 15 points, 4.5 boards, 3 assists, I mean, those go up a little bit, and you're already talking. I mean, what if he gets to 3.5, 4 assists? That right there, it's like, wow, this guy is a guy I need to have on my roster, especially if I can get him there. So I'm talked into that one. Meanwhile, it's good to see some people in the chat here. It feels like the season's getting closer. BT Photo wanted to know about this Orlando point guard situation, Steve. We got a little Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz situation here. Can we sort this one out? Or is this going to be a soul-crushing fantasy platoon? What are our thoughts?
Soul-crushing fantasy platoon, Matt. Thank you for coining that for me so I didn't have to come up with something on my own. I just think it's a timeshare. I think it's going to be an even timeshare. I think they're both going to play a lot. I love Cole Anthony as the only point guard. Like if Cole Anthony was in Washington for the Wizards, like I'd be so fired up for him right now. But it's, Fultz is going to play. Anthony's going to play. They're both going to be worth drafting and having in fantasy, but they're both going to cancel each other out quite a bit. And don't forget about Jalen Suggs, who will probably play shooting guard more than he'll play point guard, but he can handle the ball too. So it kind of looks like a three-headed monster to me. And plus it's Orlando, man. And I mean, what is Orlando doing? Like, when was the last time they put a good team out on the floor? I don't know. And so I just have a lot of trust issues with the Magic.
Raph, it's funny. The way Steve feels about Cole Anthony is actually how I feel about Markelle Fultz. Like I want to see Markelle Fultz as the only guy, because last year on a permanent basis, he was kind of awesome. I mean, aside from not hitting 3-pointers, he would be kind of a fantasy dynamo if he had the job all to himself. But we're not living in that world if they both stay healthy.
Yeah, he doesn't really excite me because, he's very good rebounder for his size, but he shot 39% from the field. Like, from the field, not from three, from the field. Like, do we not understand how inefficient that is?
That was the year before.
Anthony? No, he shot 39%.
Sorry. I thought you were talking about Fultz.
No. We know all about Fultz's shooting issues, so we don't need to go too in depth on that. But and then you bring in Jalen Suggs. He shot 21% from three. Didn't shoot the ball well from the field when he was healthy. Like I said, they're going to need to find someone who can space the floor as a 3-point shooter, and the Gary Harris loss doesn't help with that. So, yeah, the point guard battle. I mean, no, this is I don't even know how to describe it. It's like watching two kids play with foam swords. It's like someone's going to get hurt, but you don't really know how. But seriously, I don't know how to describe it. I just know that I'm not drafting any of those guys.
That's an incredible analogy. I'm picturing my kids playing with foam swords and somehow someone gets injured. Like, how did that happen?
Because they fell down backwards and hit their head on the sofa.
All right. That's a little too much.
Like, somebody may fall down into value, but you don't really want to see how it happens.
Guys, Markelle Fultz last year on a per 36-minute basis, if you'll allow me, in his limited run last year, he was around 20 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists, and 2 steals per 36. I was starting to see some flashes of that guy a little bit. And his free throw stroke, he's shooting over 80% from the line the last couple of years in his limited games. I don't know. I think if somehow Markelle Fultz had the job to himself, that's the guy I want on my rosters. But I think it still doesn't matter because they're both there. Raph?
His career high in minutes per game is 27.7. So I don't think we can use per 36.
Well,
I don't know.
So
I mean, you can, but what are the chances of him?
Let's take a quarter of that away. Okay. So we take from 36 to 27 is a quarter, right? So 15 points, 3.8 boards, 3/4 of 10 is 7.5 assists, and 1.5 steals. Sign me up. I'm just saying, there's something in there.
All right.
He's been a bust. There's something in there. It's not the right situation, but if it was the right situation, I think that would be a guy to run and add off the waiver wire. That's all I'm saying.
I sincerely hope that you're right, but
BT Photo has reached out to the Magic and suggested that their free promo for opening night be foam swords.
I love that. Yeah, that's really.
Or they could do it. They could do like a double bobblehead with Cole Anthony and Markelle Fultz, and instead of the bobblehead bobbing, you flip their arms and their swords start shaking.
Yeah, we don't make T-shirts from this show like based on things people have said, but that would be a good one. Like Cole Anthony and Markelle Fultz with foam swords. Someone's gonna get hurt. We don't know how. Someone's gonna get hurt.
Dude, we should start a T-shirt line. We can do foam swords, Chetty Pill, 2-man draft. Yep. Yeah,
agreed.
It'd be a hit.
All right, well, let's side channel this, Steve. Steve and Raph will side channel this. We'll see if we can funnel all these profits to ourselves. All right, a few quick hitters. We're already 50-something minutes into this, so we need to go. So I just want super quick hitting thoughts on these non-Southeast Division topics, okay? Lonzo Ball had knee surgery. It's reportedly reevaluated 4 to 6 weeks. We're terrified into fully not drafting him at this point, or end of draft, you take a flyer, yes or no? Raph?
End of draft in a deep league. That's it.
Steve?
Same, and I'm very curious about where Alex Caruso is going to fall in this whole thing now.
Yeah.
Time Lord Robert Williams has had knee surgery. He's reportedly out 4 to 6 weeks. I think that's reportedly out, not reportedly reevaluated. So we're probably a little more optimistic there. But Raph, how much does this affect your plans to draft him, if at all?
I think he drops towards 100 for me in drafts. I think it boosts up Al Horford, though, just because they really don't have too many proven options with the Time Lord out. So,
well, I've already gotten the Time Lord in like 3 drafts. So, and one of those is a real league, but it's also a dynasty league. But I think I have enough Time Lord on my team right now that I will probably not be drafting him anymore. I'm not as scared as everybody else is. I mean, I think he's going to miss the first 10 to 12 games, and then he'll be back.
If he's fallen in the middle rounds, I think I'm going to take a flyer. That's a difference-making shot blocker. Raph, you're looking at me like you're more worried.
I just think the medical history is a bit too extensive to assume that once he returns, he's going to be able to avoid any other major issues, because you have to think there's going to be some load management that comes into play as well.
Yeah, that's fair. Just the blocks are so hard to find, and he's so fun.
Yeah.
But what was he?
All
like
right,
15,
I'll move him down.
15 last year?
Yeah.
Like, was he like
a good fantasy player? And, you know, cleanup, I think Woj reported it as a cleanup procedure, so may not have been too extensive, but fair enough. I'll exercise the appropriate caution. Bojan Bogdanovic traded to the Pistons for Kelly Olynyk and Saban Lee. Doesn't matter in fantasy at all for anyone on either team. Raph?
Houston Rockets, Kelly Olynyk is back, man.
Oh,
and look at the center position in Utah. You've got him. You've got Udoka Azubuike, who suffered 2 major ankle injuries in his first 2 seasons. Really didn't get the chance to prove much when he was healthy. And the first-round pick in Walker Kessler. So I think the door is open for Olynyk to step forward. And I guess Lowry Marketing gets another boost, too.
Hey, Matt, let me talk about this for a second, and you jump out and jump back in because your microphone is gone. Okay. I, too, am excited about Kelly Olynyk, Roth, because an NBA scout, a current NBA scout who I'm friends with, asked me if I wrote the Kelly Olynyk blurb on RotoWorld, and I was like, no. He said, well, I disagree with it. He said, I don't think it's going to be Kessler that's starting. I think it's going to be Kelly Olynyk, and I think the Jazz can tank just as easily with Kelly Olynyk as their center as they can with Walker Kessler as their center. So I do think Kelly Olynyk suddenly becomes a very intriguing fantasy player.
Am I back? How are we?
Yes,
you're
right
back.
Now.
It's also that's crushing because I mean, great for Kelly Olynyk. Kind of bummed about Walker Kessler because I was excited about him. That's my final thought.
I think you still take Kessler, but
okay.
I think Olynyk he's the one who receives the biggest boost here.
Okay, just don't let me make his salary too high in Jared Johnson's annual salary draft like I did last year. No over Kelly Olynyk spending for me this year.
And who does Bogdanovic hurt on Detroit? Is it Sadiq Bey? Is it Marvin Bagley? Is it both of them?
I think it's Bagley and Livers. Isaiah Livers was the guy they talked about potentially starting.
Right.
You have Bey and Bogdanovic out there. That gives them some much-needed shooting at the forward positions as starters. So I think Bogdanovich pretty much be what he was in Utah, personally.
I was fired up about Livers too.
That was fun while it lasted. Last point here, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is already injured. He has a grade 2 left MCL sprain, reevaluated in 2 weeks. I mean, we already were wary of OKC just given the shutdown potential. Does this preseason injury change things or make you even more nervous than you were before, Raph?
With SGA, yes, but I think it makes me even more all in, so to speak, on Josh Giddey.
So.
Interesting. Steve?
Interesting. I'm all out on Shai. Like Jonas tweeted, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's been watching a lot of Victor Wembanyama tape. They're already tanking, and it's September. So, no, I mean, he's probably got a legitimate injury. I'm just kidding around, but you know, the writing's on the wall. Josh Giddey's going to be shut down early. I'm kind of staying away from him, unlike Raph. I mean, I think till January, Giddey's going to be awesome. But then after that, I don't know what's going to happen. I think guys like Lou Dort, Darius Baisley, and my guy Poku are going to be the guys that the Thunder are not afraid to run out there a ton of minutes all year.
All right. That is going to do it for us on this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you listen. Take a minute to rate and review us as well. We'll be back next week as our division-by-division previews continue. We'll be hitting the Western Conference starting next week. And, keep it tuned to the Roto World Player news page as more and more news comes out. I want to say thanks to everyone for listening and watching live. Steve, Raph, thanks to you guys. Enjoy your weekend. Talk to you soon.